The last time we saw Sid Plummet, the terrified sole witness to the murder of old Dr. Wade, he was hiding in the ruins of Fairweather Castle. One night he catches sight of a dodgy-looking character signalling to a mysterious ship offshore. Could this have anything to do with highly secret things being built underground? 2 unexplained deaths, or a dodgy deal between a rogue MP and an unscrupulous road contractor? Stay tuned! Welcome to Farmerston. As you can see, things here have moved along apace. In fact, our team of modellers have worked through the night. That is the reason no one's here at the moment. They've all gone off to get refreshing cups of coffee and bacon sandwiches. All except, that is, Mr. Brian Taylor, our master model maker. You must be absolutely knackered out of your mind.
I mean, we might be dead on our feet sometimes, but we keep going.
Good for you, son. All right, well, while we were doing that, while you're cracking on this stuff, I want to show the people how much things have changed and what is new in our town. Let's start here. This is our school. The actual school building itself is quite interesting. If I pick her up, because this isn't a kit, this is a resin cast model. More or less, this is how they arrive when you get them out of the box. Fantastic model, isn't it? Really good.
It's very good, yes, it's surprising.
And it even comes with a hole that's underneath there, so you can pop a bulb in there and light the thing up at night. I think they're lovely buildings. Right, I'm going to pop that back. Quick word about the actual playground itself. That's actually a couple of sheets of sandpaper there. Now, if we were basing this model in the present day, that would all be gone by now. That would have been a luxury block of flats. Bosh, quick as you like. But because it's 1964, they still have their playing field. Anyway, let's have a look at our church, which is over here. Now, the church, again, is not a kit, it is a resin model. The actual graveyard, we did make. Now, that's a couple of layers of MDF, just to give it a sense of height. The gravestones themselves come from a couple of different sources. Some of the more detailed Victorian-looking ones are actually white metal. You can actually see we haven't painted all of them, so the silvery ones are the white metal ones. The other ones, which are stone, are actually cut from pieces of card and then painted white. A lot of people don't bother modelling pavements, but I know you do, Brian. Now, why are they so important?
Some things are so familiar that, you know, they're part of the landscape, and if they're not there, you notice.
Pavements are actually very, very easy to make. Once you've decided where your paved area is going to be, you're going to cut out the shape of it in a piece of mounting card like this. The next thing we're going to do is to cover that with our old friend, Mr. Embossed Plastic Sheet. Now, this is actually brickwork, and what you'll be using is the pavement section, which looks like that, but we've run out of it. This is the last bit we've got left. We've used 10 sheets so far on our layout here. To get the curb effect, it's very, very simple. It's just a very thin strip of paper glued onto the front there where your curb would be, and then with a craft knife just gone along and scored out the marks of where the curbstones are. Very, very easy. It may seem like an insignificant little detail, but actually it's very, very important indeed. Remember, the devil is in the detail. Brian, what are you up to over there?
I'm painting bits and pieces for the scrapyard, Simon.
Seems a bit long-winded. Why don't you just give him a blast of red oxide primer?
Well, that's a very good way of doing it. The only reason that we're not doing that is because I forgot to bring it in.
Don't! Go on. So what are you going to do instead then?
Well, this is a paint called burnt sienna. This used to be made, the pigment of this used to be made from iron oxide, which of course is rust.
It's actually rust. Right, well I'm going to nick some of your bits for use in my scrapyard if I may.
Yeah.
I'm going to nick him, he'd go in there, I think. Yeah. I always fancied having a scrapyard as a kid. Like
very funny thing to admit to, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, but I always fancied that sort of stuff. Just junk lying about, always good fun. There you go, one finished scrapyard. This actually belongs to a geezer called Noel Barker. It's been an eyesore on the edge of town for as long as I or anybody else can remember. The piles of rusting old iron and Austin A7s have recently been augmented by the arrival of 2 rather garish bright yellow oil drums. At least I think they're oil drums. They're just in there, look, there you go. Now I think, personally, they're full of yellow paint. But the weird thing is, when the lights go down, they do give off an eerie greenish glow, which, let's face it, is a bit weird. Recently, Noel's been throwing a lot of reddies around, and some of the locals are beginning to ask how a humble scrap metal merchant can suddenly be so flush with cash. Which is a question I'd like to ask Noel myself. But you see, thing is, Noel isn't here at the moment. In fact, he hasn't been here quite a lot. Which to my mind is an odd way of running a business. What do you think's going on? Now, all through the series we've been looking at quintessentially English layouts, and I thought it was about time for a piece of Americana. And here it is, Peter North's wonderful model of Maria, Illinois and the Rock Island Railroad. So here she comes. This is a lovely looking bit of kit. What's this?
Maria is served by the Chicago, Rock Island and Pacific Railroad, the Rock Island Line, which of course went broke in 1980 and completely disappeared. It's a typical small train, local train that you'd see running across the prairies in the 50s.
So what made you think of modelling a US-based layout?
Well, two things really. I was very interested by trains when I got to America. It was very different from the way things are done in England. And also too, the way things were done in a slightly untidy sort of way. Railways in America actually opened up the country. And it was more important to get the thing done rather than to have it looking neat and tidy and so on.
The whole thing is a fantastic slice of American life. Now, what's going on down there?
Well, that's the grain elevator and the grain bins.
What's the elevator made out of? Is that a kit again?
Well, that's styrene again, and then I've actually hung corrugated iron on the outside. That was a common protection nailed on as the wood started to rot. And of course the station or depot is close to the grain elevator. Trains in the United States were primarily about freight. So you needed the depot with the agent who looked after the shipments from the grain elevator near the main source of traffic. Passengers were something of an afterthought.
How did you do? I'll tell you one thing about this is brilliant, is your road. I'm very intrigued about how you did your road.
Well, that was a sheet that I found that represented airport tarmac, and I ran it through a colour photocopier a few times, then moved the panels around a bit and made strips of it and bonded it to styrene, strip of styrene down the middle to give a bit of camber, and then basically stuck it down. Then on top, road markings and the various line markings are just simply decals applied later on, and then a good stiff coat of matte varnish afterwards.
This diner, let's talk a little bit about the diner, because it's a fantastic model.
Well, I wish I could claim credit for it. It is in fact a kit. It was quite difficult to build. It's the first time I've worked in stainless steel, but it struck me as so typical of diners I have seen, indeed diners I have eaten in, that I just couldn't not have it on the layout.
So the kit is actually stainless steel?
Indeed it is, yeah.
I've never seen one before. Where did you get that from?
From the United States.
From the States. It's a brilliant thing. I have to say, that is also a very... you could imagine Edward Hopper sitting over here painting that. So moving on, we've got these two buildings here. What's this one here?
Well, every town in America has its US post office. And of course it's useful because it also has the name as well. So there we have US Post Office, Maria, Illinois.
Having exhibited the layout all over the country, Peter has now sold it to his friend Nigel, another big fan of the American genre. Now you've gone for DCC, haven't you? Which I'm a big fan of. And what have you got on your control system? What can you control on yours?
The DCC primarily controls the locomotives and the sound system. It's very evocative of particularly the prairies and the lonesome horn sounding across the prairies. And also we use it for the neon signs that you can see on one or two of the buildings. Yeah. Originally it was also operating the points, but we found for exhibition use, where quite often you have to concentrate on questions from the public as well as operating the layout, that we found it was simpler to change the point operation back to conventional switch operation rather than using the DCC.
I think it's brilliant. I think it adds a lot of atmosphere to it.
It does very much so, and it's one of the, I think the most often made comment about the layout is the actual sound itself.
I love the way the sound just disappears into the distance, as does the locomotive.
And indeed you get that evocative horn sound echoing across the prairies.
It's brilliant. Well, thanks very much for showing it to us.
Thank you.
What a lovely thing. It's time to meet a new member of our team. This is Nick. Nick, welcome aboard.
Hi, Jenny.
And we're down here by Rose's cottage, and as you can see, things have changed quite a lot. We've given Rose a garden, so she can have a little potter about. She's also got new neighbours here, and they seem to be settling in very nicely. We've also given her a church, so she can potter along there on Sunday and have a little pray. But right here, we decided we're going to have a cornfield. Nick is our cornfield expert, so Nick, how do we go about making a cornfield?
Right, very easy. All you need is white PVA glue,
Right,
plumber's hemp,
lovely.
and red foam.
Okay, so let's get cracking. Let's make our cornfield. How do we start?
Okay, right, first of all, what you need is a pool of white glue.
Right, so good old double of that. Lovely.
There you go.
Alrighty, what's next?
Right, get hold of your plumber's hemp.
Right, there she is. Touch of the Barbara Streisands.
That's the one. Then you just trim off the end so it's nice and level,
Right,
like that.
yeah, yeah,
Turn it round. Do exactly the same at the other end,
yeah.
at whatever height you want the cornfield. Obviously different scale, different height. Okay, then we bring the plumber's hemp down,
Dibbler in there.
dip it in there,
Lovely.
take off the excess, and then you just plant the plumber's hemp and just stand it up like that.
Great, okay, so then we get cracking with it. Can I have a go at that?
Yeah, sure. no
All
problem
right,
at
so, okay, this is a bit like the same technique we used for thatching the cottage, actually.
Yeah, very close.
Okay, there she goes. Okay, is that right? It's a bit low, isn't it? A bit short than yours, does it matter?
It certainly is. No, we can trim it all off after
Okay.
we've finished.
So once this is set, Nick, I can give it a little haircut to make sure it's nice and level.
Yeah, that's right.
But what I'm intrigued in, what is all that about down there?
Right, this is going to make your poppies at the top of the cornfield.
You've got me all revved up now. How am I going to get the poppies in there?
Okay, very easy. Spray glue.
All right, spray glue, I'm in. Give it a spray.
Yep, a light
Okay.
spray over the top.
Spray a bit of that on there. Okay.
Okay,
And then, how much?
To pick up a very, very small bit between your fingers and then just sprinkle it on.
How about that, Nick? Too
Very
much?
good. No, that's fine, that's lovely.
Okay.
That looks really good. Well done.
Fantastic. So now all we've got to do is also wait for that to dry off, give it a little haircut, and Bob's your uncle.
That's the one.
Lovely job. Right, we actually cheated a bit because we haven't got any red flocks, so we nicked the red bits off this stuff. Now, we can use this for a variety of different things. It's actually going to be, I think it was originally designed to be rose bushes, wasn't it?
Yep.
What we thought is if you cut little sections off like that, it would actually make quite a good little rose bush for Rose's cottage.
Boom, boom.
Do you want to put one in there, son, while you're there?
Okay.
Recently, I thought I'd dip my toe into the waters of another genre of modelling, that of wargaming. I'd been invited to join Neil Fawcett, editor of WarGamesJournal.com, an online magazine for wargamers. He and his mates are going to play a game based on a real-life battle featured in the TV series Band of Brothers, and I was taking the leading role of Colonel Winters. We're about to attack a French town.
Yep, this is Carentan, basically, and what we've got in here is we've got German Fallschirmjäger, real tough troops.
Where?
Where? Well, they don't want to.
Where are they? Where are the Germans?
They're in ambush. They're basically in the houses. They're waiting for the attack. They know they're
That
coming.
is so cunning.
Certainly is, mate.
Okay, what are the rules? How do we play it?
There's lots and lots of rules out there. There are people out there who spend their lives writing rules. They get really quite picky about this. These rules we're playing are called Flames of War, and they're a company level 1-to-1. So each one of these is meant to represent one soldier from during World War II. And these rules are very fast, very bloody, very simple to play.
Wargaming seems to be a little like free-form chess, but without a chessboard. You decide when and where to move your troops. In this game, I can move my men up to 12 inches at a time, but I need to throw above a certain number on the dice to motivate them or to get them over hedges or other obstacles. I can move all of them, can I?
Yeah.
All right, I'm off. All right. I suppose when you're playing some of these games at high levels, it gets very pedantic about how much you've moved them. I mean, I'm trying to...
You can do. There are some people when they play the game, they sometimes forget it's a game and they get a little bit picky and then they start sort of arguing over measurements. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is a game. So, you know, let's not get too stressed by it.
I mean, the outcomes could be, it's really down to luck, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this isn't real life, so what you're trying to do is try and simulate it by having some random factors. And what the dice does is it gives you that sort of randomness, which you then apply a set of rules to, and that can give you sort of like various outcomes to these things, so therefore it can be different every time.
Just like real life, you must make use of the terrain, and it's important to place your troops somewhere where they can get some cover. I'm going to pop Winters, that's me, down in there, and that's his command group. It's multifaceted. You've got fantastic models, you've got landscaping, tactics, a game of chance, and it's very sociable. I can see how you can get completely drawn into it.
Yeah, it's a good social event.
Right. So now is it the Germans? We have to hand over to the Germans now?
Right, in this particular set of rules, we go one side goes, then the other go. It would be your firing now. So some of the Americans might have a chance to fire. The light machine gunners down here have got a range of 32 in these rules. So is it within range? Can they fire back?
Oh, so you measure out the firing range. There's a German sniper at that window, so if we could whack him out, I'd be pleased with that. I then have to roll the dice to see how effective my guns are going to be. If I'm firing on veteran troops who are taking cover in a building, I need to throw a high number. The Germans then have the chance to simulate dodging the fire by also throwing above a certain number. Now, there's a lot of rules, aren't there? And I mean, the rules vary from game to game.
You can make it dead simple, you can make it dead hard to play the game, and also the more you play them, the quicker it becomes.
There's a lot of stress, isn't there? I mean, you look into their little eyes and they're pleading with you, don't send me into battle. And they become friends. I've been through, and now I've got to choose which four I've got to go.
Well, just roll the dice.
So things have moved on. We've pushed the Germans out of the town. We've pushed them out through the marshland. And then we're moving on to this board here. Now, this represents the outside of the town. Now, what happened in the real event, over that 24-hour period which is now elapsed, is that we moved up the 2nd Armoured Division, which are these chaps here. Now, at the same time, the Germans retreated and they positioned their tanks just across behind these... What do they call these hedges?
Bocage.
Bocage. They stuck them behind the bocage. So now the two armies were facing each other across this narrow strip. What are we going to do now?
Well, both sets of forces were ordered to attack. The Germans' objective was to retake the town. The Americans had to secure the outside and push on hedgerow by hedgerow.
Okay,
so basically the game's got to be the Americans trying to take this hedgerow, the Germans trying to push through this hedgerow back towards the town.
It's going to be a messy affair, whatever happens.
It was, apparently, yes. The whole of this gulch was called Bloody Gulch by the Americans.
Whilst the second phase of the battle was underway, I made a tactical withdrawal to get some painting tips from another keen wargamer, Mark Hides. So now you've stuck them on the wood and you've given them a primer coating, haven't you?
Yeah, we've just used, it's a commercial matte black acrylic paint or car paint, a black primer, and essentially it's going to work like a comic book in that the black lines that you would see in a comic book are represented here by the recesses on the figure.
So they're your shadowy bits.
The shadows will just be left black. We're going to create a very exaggerated look to the figure. Close up, that figure will look, quite shocking, quite in your face. At a distance, on a table where it's going to be seen,
with lots of other figures.
Blend, it'll look very realistic. All we're going to do is on the tunic, the raised padded areas, we're going to take a smart brown line down the centre of each padded area. With an acrylic paint, it dries a lot faster. It's very much like household emulsion in a more concentrated form. And given that it dries a lot quicker, it means that you can actually go around and put a second coat on. You save yourself time and you get a much smoother finish.
So now I think I've got my most of the basic bit of my tunic done.
Right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to apply a highlight. Straight on top of the brown we've applied is use a little bit lighter brown, leaving a small amount of the first coat showing through. And essentially, all you're doing is creating the appearance of creases and the way that light passes over a figure. What you want to do is to always use a brighter colour than you would, see it in real life.
So accentuate it.
So a blood red in real life would be almost a fluorescent red on a figure this small.
What's the next stage then? Where are we
off
to
what we'll do now, we'll paint some of the clothing, and for this we'll choose a colour.
Blue.
Right.
I'm a big fan of blue.
You want a really strong deep blue to start with.
I notice you've always got paint on your fingernails.
Well, what I tend to do, again, that's another secret. The time can be saved. What I tend to do is take a charge of paint from my palette, keep it on my thumbnail. Once we've got that little bit of blue on, we'll leave it for just a few seconds to start start to dry. So we're going to take a pale herb blue, and we're going to imagine where the creases are now. If in doubt, look at something that you're wearing, look at your own clothes,
So it's
look
in
where the
where the
creases
elbows
are,
are.
and try and imagine where that is. You don't have to be that precise. Just try and give an impression of creases and how light falls on the creases.
I've got a bit of shadowing on there. What's the next
Okay.
stage?
Right.
There?
Well, now we'll show you something called dry brushing. Now we're going to take a metallic colour. This is a gunmetal or a steel colour. We're going to apply this in such a way that it will do in one coat the same as three shades using the previous technique. As you run the brush over the back of your hand, when you can start to see the cracks in your skin, you've got probably just about the right amount of paint on the brush. Take the brush in just one direction and slowly build a metallic finish up, and the creases and the lines are left black.
That
As you
is
can
brilliant.
probably see there, literally in seconds,
The details there.
the details there.
That is very quick. Having painted the face brown, Mark then applies highlights, just like with a tunic, to prominent areas like the nose, the cheeks, and the chin. This action comic style of highlighting may look strange close up, but remember, these figures are designed to be seen on a large battlefield. The other thing to remember about wargame figures is that you're going to have to paint a lot of them. And when you do get good at it, you can like this. Neil had packed the family off for the weekend, got the beers in, and the guys are set for 2 days of combat. One of the other scenes they were going to be using was this Saxon village. Many of the buildings are resin mouldings, and I thought they were brilliant. If you've never tried wargaming before, I can thoroughly recommend it. The rules don't take too long to get to know, and not only does it quickly become totally absorbing, it's also extremely sociable. Meanwhile, back in Farmington, things have turned nasty up at the archaeological dig. Frustrated by the delay the dig's causing to the building of the dual carriageway, road contractor Chubby Riley has pitched up with a couple of heavies, making thinly veiled threats. The following night, Liz accompanies her husband, the dodgy local MP, to a civic function. At the do, Liz overhears a careless remark from Chubby Riley about the archaeologists not giving them any more trouble. Alarm bells start to ring. She makes her excuses and hurries off to warn her lover. But when she arrives, Ben Kelly's caravan is deserted and Ben is missing.